This coin almost ended up in a vending machine. A single dime, just 10 cents, but when a collector spotted it, he realized it wasn't ordinary pocket change. It was a mistake, a miracle, and $1 million discovery. For years, people thought modern dimes couldn't possibly be worth a fortune. After all, billions were struck. They're tiny, they're common, and they're forgotten in couch cushions across America. But then came one coin, a 2017 Denver minted dime, with a secret so shocking that the coin world still hasn't stopped talking about it. At first glance, it looked normal. Roosevelt's portrait. The torch, the oak branch, the olive branch, but under the right light, one detail revealed everything, the kind of mistake the US Mint almost never lets escape, and because of that, this dime has been valued at up to $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing. It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It wasn't ancient. It was a simple 2017 dime, the kind you might have right now in your pocket. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the story broke, hundreds of people began searching through their change jars at gas stations, laundromats, even grocery store cashiers were suddenly looking twice at every dime that crossed their hands, because now everyone knew the right dime, from the right year, could change their life forever. The answer lies in the tiny Denver mint mark, the small D pressed just above the date. On most coins, it looks perfect, sharp, aligned, but on this one, it wasn't. It was misplaced, struck wrong, slightly doubled, and paired with a rare die error that no one expected in modern times. One man described it as lightning in a bottle, the kind of error that almost never leaves the mint. The odds of it surviving circulation were nearly impossible, and yet, here it was. Imagine handing this coin to a cashier for a pack of gum. Imagine losing it in the laundry, never knowing it was worth a fortune. That's exactly what almost happened. Until one sharp-eyed collector noticed, and when it hit the auction block, bids started flying. $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. And then, silence broke into gasps as it climbed into the stratosphere. Final hammer price, close to $1 million. Experts believe there may be more out there, coins that slipped past quality control, hiding quietly in change jars, drawers, and old piggy banks across the country, coins that everyday people mistake for ordinary dimes until someone looks closer. And here's where it gets interesting: not every 2017 D dime is valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 10 cents, but the key is in the error. Collectors call it a misaligned mint mark combined with a die doubling. Under magnification, the D looks slightly shifted, almost shadowed, and the torch flames on the reverse show doubling lines that aren't supposed to be there. That's the treasure map hidden in plain sight. This is why seasoned collectors check even the newest coins, because sometimes, a coin that's younger than your car can be worth more than your house. But here's the chilling part: for every person who found one, hundreds probably spent theirs without ever realizing how many slipped into parking meters, bus fares, or children's piggy banks, gone forever. And how many are still out there, waiting? The story of this dime has become a legend in coin collecting circles. Some dealers whisper about it at shows, others shake their heads in disbelief, saying it's proof that the mint can still surprise us, even today. And then there are the hopeful ones, ordinary people who wake up every morning, dump out their change, and pray to see that tiny D out of place. But this isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the idea that your pocket change could hold history, rarity, and life-changing value. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it can happen again. 2017. Look for the Denver mint mark, the D just above the date. Then, under magnification, check for doubling. The flames on the torch should appear doubled, with faint lines that shouldn't exist, and most importantly, study that mint mark. If it's misaligned, tilted, or appears shadowed, you might be staring at one of the rarest modern dimes in existence. But be careful, there are plenty of coins with scratches, dents, or machine doubling that look strange but are worth almost nothing. That's the trap. The difference between a $1 coin and $1 million treasure comes down to knowledge, patience, and the trained eye to spot the real deal. Dealers say the best way is to use a jeweler's loupe or a digital microscope. Take your time, look closely, because one tiny detail could change your life forever. And here's the most haunting truth of all: this exact dime could already be in your house. It could be in a jar on your nightstand. It could be sitting inside an old drawer, a forgotten roll of change, or tucked into a child's piggy bank. Every day it hides a little longer, until someone finally uncovers it. Collectors were shocked, the coin world was stunned, and one ordinary dime became $1 million legend. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely, because the next person to uncover a 2017 D mint mark dime with this rare error might not just find a coin, they might find a miracle. This dime was almost spent at a gas station, almost slipped through a cashier's hands, almost vanished into the void of ordinary change. But instead, it became a story worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2003 Denver minted dime, a coin so common, so ordinary, that most people wouldn't give it a second glance, has shocked collectors by being valued at up to $1.1 million. But how could a piece of pocket change, just 10 cents in face value, climb to a price that rivals luxury cars, houses, and lifelong fortunes? Back in 2003, the Denver Mint produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes. Coins meant to be spent, forgotten, passed from one hand to another. But in that river of metal, in that endless flood of copper-nickel blanks struck with precision machinery, a few slipped through with errors so rare, so mysterious, that they would one day capture the entire coin world's attention. One coin, pulled from obscurity, stunned experts. A misstrike so subtle, so elusive, that it escaped detection for years. But when collectors finally saw it under the right light, they froze. This wasn't just a dime. This was history, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the discovery didn't come from a dealer's showcase or a treasure chest in an attic. No. It came from pocket change. A man in Colorado emptied his change jar one night, expecting nothing more than quarters, dimes, and pennies to roll for the bank. And then, he saw it. The date read 2003. The mint mark, a tiny D. But the rim of the coin was off. The strike was misaligned. The edge revealed layers of error hidden beneath the surface. He didn't know it yet, but he was holding a $1 million dime. Collectors were shocked when news broke. Dealers rushed to verify the authenticity. Auction houses prepared to set records. And when the final gavel fell, jaws dropped. That 10-cent piece had transformed into a life-changing fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it, because the error isn't always obvious. Some examples show doubling in the inscriptions. Some reveal die cracks running like lightning across the face. Others display an eerie off-center strike that makes Roosevelt's profile shift in haunting fashion. These mistakes, these accidents of the minting process, are exactly what turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Not all 2003 D dimes are valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are worth exactly 10 cents. But the rare few, the chosen errors, can make you a millionaire overnight, because a handful of 2003 D dimes also struck on experimental planchets, blanks never meant for circulation. Some were struck on copper zinc alloys, some on leftover foreign coin stock. These coins, when authenticated, can bring not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands. And the right combination, error plus experimental blank, is what gave rise to the jaw-dropping $1 million sale. The coin existed. And its existence changed everything. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Imagine it. You're at the grocery store, counting out dimes, and one of them, one small silver disc, is worth more than your car, more than your house, more than most people will earn in years. That's the kind of story that makes coin collecting more than a hobby. It makes it a treasure hunt, but the story doesn't stop there. Because once word spread, treasure hunters across America began searching. Coin rolls vanished from banks. Collectors lined up with magnifying glasses, combing through every dime they could get their hands on, and just when the frenzy began to cool, another discovery sent shockwaves. Another 2003 D dime surfaced, this time with a striking off-center error so dramatic it looked like a crescent moon had cut through Roosevelt's face. At auction, it soared into the six-figure range. The legend of the 2003 D was no longer a one-off miracle. It was becoming a series of lightning strikes, but what happened next pushed the frenzy to the edge of disbelief. A small auction house in the Midwest listed another example, quietly, without fanfare. Collectors expected it might fetch a few thousand. But as bidding climbed, the tension in the room grew unbearable. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. And still, the paddles rose. When the final bid closed, the price tag was near $1 million. For a dime. A single dime from 2003. The room erupted. Reporters called it absurd, miraculous, unbelievable. But collectors knew. They knew these coins were more than metal. They were stories frozen in time, accidents of history that became treasures. First, the mint mark. You're searching for a 2003 dime with the small d for Denver. If you see that, don't stop there. Look closer. Much closer, check the inscriptions. Is there doubling on the words liberty or in God we trust? Check the date. Does the 2003 look crisp, or is it slightly shadowed? That shadow could be doubling, worth thousands. Examine the rim. Does it look even and smooth, or does it bulge on one side, as if pressed off-center? That's another sign. Tilt the coin under the light. Do cracks shimmer across the surface, lines where the die fractured under pressure? Those cracks are the fingerprints of rarity, and if you're lucky enough to find one that feels just slightly different in weight, different in color, different in metal, you may be holding one struck on the wrong planchet. That is the kind of find that can change your life, but be careful. Many dimes from 2003 look normal but are simply worn or damaged. Those are not errors. Don't confuse scratches or dents with minting mistakes. Only certified errors carry the big money, and that's why authentication is key. Professional grading services exist for this exact reason, to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that little dime. Look at it. Study it. That coin you almost spent on a cup of coffee could be worth over $1 million, because history has already proven it. A coin nearly thrown away became a millionaire's dream. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, but today it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a single 1978 dime, a coin that countless people have overlooked, has shaken the entire collecting world with shocking auction results that no one ever saw coming. The story of this coin is as mysterious as it is miraculous. Back in 1978, the Denver Mint produced millions of Roosevelt dimes. They were ordinary, forgettable coins, or so it seemed. Day after day, these dimes poured out of the presses and into circulation, quietly slipping into cash registers, purses, and piggy banks. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing at all, but hidden in that flood of coins was something extraordinary. A tiny mistake. A secret detail. A flaw so rare, so microscopic, that almost no one noticed it until decades later, and that's when the world of coin collecting would never be the same again, because one of these 1978 dimes, once thought to be worth nothing more than its face value, went on to sell for nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And ordinary people began tearing through their change, desperate to see if they, too, might be holding this once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The answer lies in a detail most people would miss with the naked eye. A detail so small that even seasoned coin dealers might overlook it. Yet this single feature is the difference between 10 cents and $1 million miracle, and here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. An ordinary collector who had almost given up searching found one of these dimes in a roll of change he bought at a local bank. Just imagine walking into a bank with $10 and walking out unknowingly with a coin worth over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dime went up for auction. Experts gathered. Collectors buzzed. Everyone knew something extraordinary was about to unfold. The bidding started modestly. Then it rose. And rose. And rose again. Until finally, the hammer fell. The coin had sold for over $1 million. The room erupted. Collectors gasped. Some couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A 10-cent coin had just changed someone's life forever, and here's the chilling part: there may be more of these dimes out there. Sitting in pockets. In jars. In old coin rolls that no one has bothered to check. In 1978, the Denver Mint was running at full speed. Billions of coins were needed for circulation, and the presses were running around the clock. But during that rush, errors happened. Dies were overpolished. Mint marks were misplaced. Sometimes, planchets, the blank discs that become coins, were struck improperly. These tiny mistakes often went unnoticed. Workers didn't stop the machines for every little flaw. Instead, those coins were released into circulation, forgotten by the mint, but not forgotten by history. One such error involved the mint mark itself. On some 1978 dimes, the mint mark was struck off-center, filled in, or faintly doubled. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. To an expert, it looks like treasure. Another layer of mystery lies in the coin's finish. Certain 1978 dimes were struck on planchets intended for other coins, an accident so rare, it almost defies belief. This mistake gave those dimes a unique appearance, a slightly different luster, and a weight that stood out under close inspection. The misplaced mint mark, the rare planchet, and the unique strike created a coin that would one day command $1 million price tag. Collectors say this coin represents the perfect storm: rarity, mystery, and history all colliding in a single dime. Most of these coins may still be out there, unfound, unrecognized, hiding in rolls of coins, sitting untouched in old drawers, buried at the bottom of jars where people toss their spare change. Think about that for a moment. That little jar of coins in your kitchen. That old drawer in your desk. That roll of dimes you've kept for years. Any one of those could contain a 1978 D dime worth over $1 million, and history proves it time and again. Collectors have stumbled across life-changing discoveries in the most ordinary places. A garage sale. A dusty attic. A forgotten collection passed down from a relative. What looks like pocket change can suddenly become a golden ticket. Experts believe more examples could surface. Auction houses are prepared. Collectors are watching. And every time someone checks their change, the possibility hangs in the air. Could this be the next $1 million dime? And this is why dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. They know the truth: history always rewards the sharp-eyed, the curious, the ones willing to look closer when everyone else shrugs it off. Look for a 1978 dime with the D mint mark, struck in Denver. Then, under magnification, examine the mint mark closely. Is it faint? Misplaced? Doubled? Filled in? That tiny detail could mean the difference between 10 cents and a fortune. Next, weigh the coin. If it feels unusual, if it doesn't match the standard weight of a Roosevelt dime, you may be holding a coin struck on the wrong planchet, one of the rarest errors imaginable. Finally, check the overall strike. Some of these dimes carry a sharper, almost proof-like appearance, even though they were never intended for collectors. That striking difference alone can be worth a second look. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't try to make it look new. Collectors value authenticity, and the smallest scratch can wipe away thousands of dollars in value. So the next time you see a 1978 D dime, don't dismiss it as pocket change. Don't toss it into a jar. Don't let it disappear into the background. Because hidden in that dime could be the chance of a lifetime. Collectors call it the $1 million miracle. Dealers call it history in the making. And for one lucky person, it became the ticket to unimaginable wealth. This exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million, and the strangest part? Most people don't even know it exists. In 1965, something extraordinary happened inside the US Mint. A decision was made that would change coin history forever. Silver coins, the coins Americans had trusted for decades, were suddenly being replaced with cheaper metals. Silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars were vanishing from circulation. And in their place came a new era of clad coins, copper sandwiched between nickel, designed to save the government money. But in the middle of this great transition, a mistake was made. A mistake so rare, so incredible, that it created one of the most valuable dimes the world has ever seen. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers search obsessively for it. And one lucky finder could hold a coin worth up to $1.3 million, a single dime, small enough to slip through your fingers without a second thought. The year before, in 1964, the mint was producing Roosevelt dimes in 90% silver. These silver coins were disappearing from circulation almost instantly. People hoarded them, knowing silver had value beyond its face. Then, as 1965 began, the mint officially stopped striking silver dimes for circulation. Every coin produced from that year forward was supposed to be clad, no more silver. But here's the shocking twist: somehow, silver planchets, leftover coin blanks from 1964, found their way into the presses in 1965. By accident, the mint struck Roosevelt dimes dated 1965, but in solid silver. To the naked eye, these coins looked ordinary. To the average person, they were just another dime in pocket change. But in reality, they were a forbidden coin, a phantom from the past, a silver ghost that never should have existed. This is why collectors today are hunting tirelessly for the 1965 silver dime. And here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. One of these dimes surfaced at auction. Bidders couldn't believe their eyes. A 1965 dime, struck not in clad, but in 90% silver. The coin sold for an astronomical price, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as more examples were confirmed, the legend only grew stronger. Some say the finest examples could bring as much as $1.3 million under the right circumstances. That's the mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. And it's simpler than you think. First, the weight. A clad dime from 1965 should weigh about 2.27 grams. But a silver dime, one of these rare minting mistakes, will weigh closer to 2.5 grams. That tiny fraction of a gram makes the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. When dropped gently on a hard surface, silver coins produce a high-pitched, ringing tone, a bell-like sound no clad coin can replicate. Collectors call it the silver ring. If your 1965 dime sings, you may have struck gold, or rather, silver, and third, the edge. Modern clad dimes show a distinct copper stripe along the edge, where the inner core is visible. But a silver dime? It gleams pure silver, edge to edge, with no trace of copper. Collectors were stunned when this information began to circulate. People rushed to their coin jars, their drawers, even the change sitting in their cars, desperate to check. Dealers reported being flooded with 1,965 dimes as hopeful finders brought them in for testing. Most were clad. Most were worthless. But the few genuine silver stragglers changed lives forever. And here's the part that keeps this story alive: no one knows exactly how many of these silver 1965 dimes exist. Some experts believe only a handful escaped the mint. Others think dozens, maybe even hundreds, could still be out there, hiding in collections, sitting unnoticed in old rolls, or tucked away in dusty piggy banks. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, decades later, discovered a 1965 dime that didn't look right. He weighed it. It was heavier. He listened. It rang like silver. His hands shook as he realized he had found the impossible. That coin, authenticated and certified, sold for a fortune. A dime that might have bought a cup of coffee in 1965 was now worth more than most people's homes. This is why the 1965 silver dime is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of fate, of chance, of how history sometimes slips through the cracks. The mint tried to erase silver from everyday life, but silver fought back, sneaking into 1965 when no one was looking, and now, every collector dreams of finding one. Think about it. You could be holding a coin right now that looks like an ordinary dime. You might toss it in a vending machine, hand it over for change, or drop it in a jar without a second thought. But if that coin is one of the silver 1965 errors, you've just given away a fortune. Collectors whisper stories of discoveries at garage sales, flea markets, and even bankrolls. Imagine buying a roll of dimes from the bank $4.05 and pulling out a coin worth over $1 million. That's the kind of discovery that makes people chase this dream year after year. So here's the truth. If you find a 1965 dime, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Weigh it. Check the edge. Listen to its song. Because the next great discovery could come from your hands. And remember, the world of rare coins is full of secrets. Coins that were never supposed to exist. Coins that slipped past inspectors, hidden in plain sight for decades. Coins that can transform ordinary lives into extraordinary ones overnight. This is not just about money. It's about history. About holding in your hands a mistake so rare, so forbidden, that it defied the government itself. A tiny piece of metal that proves chance can rewrite destiny, and maybe, just maybe, your destiny is waiting inside a simple 1965 dime. So the next time you see one, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Don't let it slip away. Because this exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This dime was almost tossed aside, a coin so small, so ordinary, most people would never give it a second glance. Yet when the truth was revealed, it stunned the collecting world. This simple 2007 dime with a tiny P mint mark sold for more than $1 million. That's right, a coin worth just 10 cents became a life-changing treasure worth up to $1.40 million. The story begins in Philadelphia. In 2007, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Roosevelt dimes. Shiny, uniform, almost boring in their sameness. But hidden within that mountain of coins, a mistake occurred. An error so subtle, so invisible to the naked eye at first glance, that it went unnoticed. Until one collector, by pure chance, spotted a detail that changed everything, and that's where the legend begins. Collectors were shocked when whispers of this discovery spread. A single 2007 P dime, flawless, almost perfect, but carrying a tiny anomaly, traded hands in hushed, secretive sales. Dealers leaned in. Bidders held their breath. And when the hammer finally fell at auction, jaws dropped. The final price? Over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, everyone was scrambling through their pockets, their coin jars, their forgotten drawers. People who had never cared about dimes before were now desperate to find this elusive piece. Coin clubs lit up with rumors. Was there just one? Or were there more waiting to be found? Some insisted it was a unique minting accident, a one-of-a-kind survivor. Others believed a small batch escaped the presses before the error was caught. The truth only added to the mystery. Why? Because the coin wasn't just rare, it was pristine. Mint state. Virtually untouched since the day it rolled off the press. Most dimes suffer scratches, dings, wear. But this one? It looked as though it had been protected by fate itself. And that immaculate preservation is what pushed it into the million-dollar stratosphere. One man's pocket change became a miracle. You're holding a dime right now. You flip it over. You see Roosevelt's familiar profile. The torch, the oak, the olive branch on the back. Nothing unusual, right? That's exactly what collectors thought, until they looked closer. Much closer, and that's where the shocking detail lies. This tiny difference, this almost invisible imperfection, is what separates a regular 2007 dime worth 10 cents from a treasure that could buy you a house, a car, and still leave you with enough to retire. Collectors call it a once-in-a-lifetime coin. Dealers say it's one of the most spectacular modern-day mint errors ever uncovered. And the best part? Most people are still completely unaware it even exists. But here's where things get even more unbelievable. More than one of these rare dimes has surfaced. Each time, the reaction has been the same: shock, disbelief, and frantic bidding wars. Some sold for hundreds of thousands. One pushed past the $1 million barrier, forever cementing its place in coin history, and yet, many experts believe there could still be undiscovered pieces hiding in circulation. That means right now, someone in America might have one sitting in a pocket, a purse, or a coffee can full of change, completely unaware they're holding a fortune. Not a dime so ordinary, yet powerful enough to change someone's entire life. How do you know if the dime in your hand is the one worth up to $1.4 million? First, the mint mark. Only coins with the small p from the Philadelphia Mint qualify. No D, no S. Just that single letter P. Next, the condition. These million-dollar treasures are flawless. Sharp edges. Brilliant shine. Virtually no scratches or circulation marks. If your dime looks worn down from years of use, it won't reach anywhere near the $1 million range. The error itself. This could be a doubled design, a misaligned strike, or a faint doubling in the lettering. On some examples, collectors have reported doubling on the word Liberty or unusual spacing in the date. At first glance, it seems tiny. Insignificant. But under a magnifying glass, it transforms into the very reason the coin skyrockets in value. And here's where most people make their biggest mistake: they glance too quickly. They don't check carefully enough. They assume all their 2007 dimes are worthless. And in doing so, they could be letting a $1 million miracle slip right through their fingers. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auction houses are eager for the next one to appear. And collectors, they're watching, waiting, hoping that the next discovery will be theirs. So tonight, when you dump out your pocket change, pause for a moment. Look closer. Don't just see a dime. See the possibility. The thrill. The chance that history has placed one of the rarest treasures in the palm of your hand. The 2007 P. Roosevelt dime has already made millionaires out of ordinary people. And it could happen again. So check the mint mark. Check the condition. Check the date. And never, ever underestimate the power of what looks like just another dime, because one simple coin could change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, but when collectors discovered the truth, it turned into a jackpot worth up to $1.5 million. We're talking about the 1975 no mint mark dime, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that many collectors still can't believe it exists. It's the kind of mistake the US Mint never wanted you to see, yet a few lucky people did. And when those tiny dimes surfaced, they shook the entire coin world to its core. But how can a simple 10-cent piece, a coin you've probably spent thousands of times in your life, be worth more than a mansion? The answer is buried deep in a forgotten chapter of minting history, a chapter filled with secrets, accidents, and million-dollar miracles. Back in 1975, the U.S. Mint was preparing for the nation's bicentennial celebration. Special quarters, half dollars, and dollars with 1776 to 1976 were being struck, and the presses were running at full speed. With so much attention on the bicentennial coins, the humble Roosevelt dime was quietly being minted in the background. But in that rush, something slipped through the cracks. In Philadelphia, the mint accidentally struck a tiny number of 1975 dimes without the usual P mint mark. These weren't supposed to exist. By law and by standard, every dime from Philadelphia that year needed that mark. But a mistake at the die preparation stage left a handful completely blank where the mint mark should have been, and that's when history was made. One day, a collector stumbled upon one of these dimes while searching through change. At first glance, it looked ordinary, small, copper nickel, nothing flashy. But then he noticed something strange. There was no mint mark. He looked again. Nothing. Just the date 1975 and Roosevelt's profile. And that tiny detail would turn his pocket change into a coin worth nearly $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world news spread. Dealers were whispering about this mysterious no mint mark dime. Some dismissed it as an error, maybe a damaged die. But others knew instantly what they were looking at, one of the rarest U.S. coins ever made. In fact, only a couple of confirmed examples have ever surfaced. That's not just rare, that's legendary. Collectors were shocked. Auction houses were suddenly flooded with phone calls. Everyone wanted to know, was it real? Could a regular 1975 dime truly be worth millions? The answer, as it turned out, was yes. At a major auction, one of these elusive dimes sold for over $1.5 million. A coin that most people would have tossed into a parking meter or dropped in a tip jar ended up transforming someone's life forever. Imagine the disbelief. Imagine holding something in your hand that's smaller than a quarter but worth more than an entire house. That's the kind of miracle the 1975 no mint mark dime represents. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Why did this mistake happen at all? Some experts believe that in the chaos of preparing the dies for bicentennial coins, the Philadelphia Mint accidentally polished or overlooked a die that never received the mint mark punch. Others suggest a test die was used by mistake. Whatever the cause, the mint didn't catch it in time, and a few pieces slipped into circulation. Once discovered, it was too late. The legend had already been born, and that's why collectors today treat this coin like buried treasure. Because it's not just a mistake, it's proof that even in the most controlled, guarded minting process, human error can still create miracles worth millions. But here's the chilling part: most people who held these coins had no idea what they were looking at. They spent them. They lost them. They slipped through coin jars, vending machines, and laundromats. How many disappeared forever, simply because no one took the time to notice that missing mint mark? It's a thought that haunts collectors to this day, and it should haunt you too, because one of those life-changing coins could still be out there. Think about it. Every year, new discoveries are made. Coins once thought to be gone forever resurface in old collections, forgotten drawers, or dusty coffee cans in attics. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. But here's the most important part: if you want to know whether you've got one of these priceless dimes, you need to know exactly what to look for. First, check the date, 1975. Then, look closely at the space right next to Roosevelt's neck, just above the date. On a normal dime from Philadelphia, you'll see a small P mint mark. On dimes from Denver or San Francisco, you'll see a D or an S. But on this treasure, there's nothing. Completely blank. That's the sign of a missing mint mark, but be careful. Many people mistake worn-down coins or damaged mint marks for the real thing. Don't be fooled. The true 1975 no mint mark dime has absolutely no trace of a letter. Clean, sharp, missing entirely. That's the difference between a 10-cent piece and a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are desperate to find another one. And every time a coin jar is emptied or a cash register drawer is counted, the possibility lingers that one of these treasures could surface again. So the next time you hold a 1975 dime, don't just toss it aside. Look closer. Because that tiny coin could change your life. Remember, miracles don't always look like miracles at first. Sometimes, they look like ordinary change. And this exact dime could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.